What's going on, boxing fans? Welcome to The Distance. My name is Julian Williams. I am here to talk about this Joel Casamayor versus Robert Guerrero matchup last night. That was on the pay-per-view card. Overall, very stale, very dry fight, if you ask me, because really nothing happened until the very end. Um, because Robert Guerrero has a real lack of killer instinct, uh, and possibly could it could be because just this specific fight because he didn't really go for the knockout. He was practically throwing like two or three punches at a time. Um, but he was landing some good shots. He was landing some good left hands. But after he would land the good left hands, he wouldn't follow him up. And if he it's like this, if you land a good shot on somebody and you hurt him, and you have a fighter coming in trying to hold you, then you might as well just try to end the fight before you have a circumstance like in that final round where Casamayor landed that hard right jab and Guerrero just went down. So like overall in this fight, this is another practically one-sided fight. No need to go over the rounds, in a one-sided matchup. But towards the very end of the match, Guerrero, I guess felt he was cruising to a victory, and he left himself open for that jab, and he just went straight down. And they were talking about how Guerrero had never been knocked down, whether it be in the gym, amateurs, professional, never been down ever. And he was put down, and like Lampley was saying, he was put down off of a right jab. Guerrero is now fighting in perhaps the best division in boxing if he decides to stay in the 140-pound weight class. And if you're in the 140-pound weight class, you have to be on top of your game. And I think that you have to develop a killer instinct if you're taking on fighters such as a Timothy Bradley, Devin Alexander, Amir Khan, other fighters of that nature. I think that with Robert Guerrero, if he moves up to 140, he's gonna have to have a lot of improvement. He can't make the same mistakes against pure technical boxers, and I think that a lack of killer instinct will catch up to you in the long run. So I do personally believe that Robert Guerrero is a very good boxer. I just don't think I think this fight proved against the veterans such as Joel Casamayor that he's not ready for the big time yet. I think there's a lot of improvement for Robert Guerrero, and possibly because he's fighting another southpaw. It could have been an awkward matchup because Joel Casamayor, at this point of his career, never faced a southpaw until he fought Robert Guerrero, and sometimes southpaw versus southpaw matchups can be a little confusing for the fighters because if you look at Casamayor really had to think about what he was going to do next, and you could tell he was thinking about what was going to be his next move. You could tell just by looking at his body language, kind of those those little movements that he would do, and how he would stay on the outside. I think he did do the right thing by keeping his distance, keeping his range away from Guerrero, but he didn't really do much using that range, using that space that he had because there was a lot of space, and he would get himself caught up on the ropes or he would catch some left hands. So, and also with Robert Guerrero, I think Robert Guerrero, if he wants to become a little more dangerous, I thought the the thing that he should have done more so than what he was doing, he kept throwing his jab. He tried to keep Casamayor at the end of that jab, but I think he should have just thrown a quick jab and followed up with a quick left hand. Similar to what Sugar Ray Robinson would do, but kind of opposite. The quick jab followed up with the cross, something along that nature. Maybe like a left hook, maybe a left hook. That was a double negative. My bad. Maybe a left hook or double up the hook. Do something. Don't throw two or three punches at a time, especially against a fighter where there's a lot of openings, and there's a lot of openings with Casamayor. And Casamayor, there were times he was kind of just standing there, hands were kind of loose, and Guerrero, throws just 1 or 2 punches. So I think that more combinations, more effective combinations would help and benefit Robert Guerrero in the later stages of his career. He's still a young fighter. Um, I think there's still a lot of room for improvement. And on top of that, when he took on Malcolm Clausen last year for the IBF 130 pound championship, super featherweight championship, he threw about 1 or 2 punches and he would move. He wouldn't admire his work, but he stayed very safe. And a lot of people question his heart. His heart, like against Dow Jordan back in March of last year, March 2009. When he fought Dow Jordan, a lot of people question his heart. So there's a lot of questions regarding Robert Guerrero. A lot of questions, but at the same time, there's a lot of question marks, but there's a lot of room for improvement. I think he needs to kind of use, especially at 140 or 135, wherever he decides to fight at. I think that he does need to kind of use his size a little more to his advantage. I think that would benefit him very well. So anyway, one-sided matchup. I had 9 rounds to 1 for Robert Guerrero. But anyway, that was distance. Thanks for watching. Peace.